welcome back to my channel. I'm really happy today. I don't know why, but I wanted to do this video for a long time. We're gonna discuss a little bit of a reflection about my growth as a medical student and the art of clinical skills. That's really interesting for me. If you don't know me, my name is Melisa Rodriguez. I'm a second-year medical student in Florida, and I make videos about medical school, about how to get into medical school, and my lifestyle as a medical student, etc, etc. So if you're interested in that kind of content, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I'm also happy because I have a new hair. I don't think I'm actually doing a vlog video this week, but I don't think that video is gonna go up before this one. So yes, I got new hair. This is the first time that I've ever dyed my hair, so it's a big deal for me, and I'm really excited. It gave me like a little confidence boost, so I'm really happy today. I have my little coffee mug right here representing FAU medicine, and I have a little latte to drink with you guys. So if you want to watch this video and learn all about my clinical skills development as a medical student and how it changes, just keep watching. Super good. Okay, so the idea of doing this video came at me last week when I was finishing my clinical encounter, and this is for advanced clinical skills, which we have every other week, and we interview a standardized patient. And that week I felt so good with myself. Like, I know I didn't do a perfect job, but I know that I did good. So you know when you feel good about something because you prepared and you just feel like you nailed it. So that's how I felt that week. So I wanted to just talk about how far I have come since I started medical school. Remember, I didn't really have much experience in the clinical setting. Like, I did some shadowing, and I also worked with older adults, but by singing, so it wasn't like an MA or an EMT or a scribe. I wasn't anything like that before medical school. So this was an exciting part for me because it's the part that I really want to get good at from the beginning. This is the part that I want to excel at. In other words, I was not interested, well, I want to get good grades because I've always been, you know, that determined student, and I always wanted to do well. But the main part that I wanted to do well is clinical skills. In my school, this is called Foundations of Medicine, and as you may know, as we all informed, this was a year that my first year of medical school was the pandemic year. So that meant we had to do all clinical skills online, virtually, until January, when we started to do some clinicals in person, like once a week or twice a week. But before that, the first semester, when we were learning about this history taking and different physical exams, it was all online. So imagine that having to do all this learning process virtually, it was not easy for me. But I mean, I used the techniques that I've always used to learn everything, which is memorization, right? Memorization, the same techniques I will use to study biochemistry per se. So I learned all of these questions that I had to ask the patient, and the complete medical history, which included all the different questions. I have a whole video about it that I posted back in November when I was preparing for the mini OSCE, which was the first actual exam that we had on clinical skills. That was in November, and I knew it like in the back of my hand. I knew it from memorization. In other words, I just learned it for the exam, right? And guess what? That mini OSCE that we did in November, I kind of did bad on. I don't remember if I actually failed it, but I did really bad because the exam was actually about analyzing what was missing, the missing part of the story. So they will give you a scenario with the different parts of the history, and you have to figure out what of that history was missing, and that part that was missing you were supposed to ask. And we did have some preparations for it. It wasn't that we were just thrown into this exam. We did have some prep work, but my mind, I think, for one of those stations went blank, and I forgot a part of it. I thought in my head that I did perfect. I even went out of that exam thinking of myself, wow, I nailed it because I could memorize all of these questions, right? But guess what? I missed a whole part. And it was because I wasn't thinking about the patient per se and what information I was missing for the patient. I was just thinking logically what was missing and what I needed to ask based on my memorization of the different parts of the complete medical history. So basically that day, I even cried, and when I found out that I failed my first mini OSCE, which is, imagine, the part of medical school that I really wanted to excel at and that I prepared a lot, and I just felt really bad. And I didn't tell you guys about this because I was just doing vlogs and about my daily life. I was new in YouTube, and I didn't really wanted to talk about how I failed my first mini OSCE, and even more that I just finished doing a video on how I was preparing for it, and I did really good in that video. You can see it if you go to it, that I was asking all of these questions by memory, like I knew all of these questions that I needed to ask, but I still failed it. So that week I felt really bad. I talked to my parents and the rest of my family, and I was just feeling really bad, but I just took it as a learning opportunity, and I was determined that for sure that will never happen to me again. So I started just practicing again, because I knew that was just practice that I needed to do in order to understand what was missing. So I really want to thank my lovely mentor. We get a mentor, an M2 mentor in our first year that guides us through it, and my mentor couldn't be more nice. Like, she took time to help me with that OSCE, and then she helped me again in the end of the year for the complete physical exam and focus history OSCE. Like, I have no words to thank her for how much she did. But I did really well in my December OSCE, so that kind of like took off for that many OSCE that I kind of failed, like I said. But yeah, I just wanted to just reflect on that, because I was just thinking, oh, I just memorized this and just rely on my memory. But no, clinical skills is really about working with your patient and really listening to the patient and realizing what's missing from that list of questions that you were taught, and really honing in your skills as a doctor to figure out what's wrong, right? And in your head try to be thinking already about differential diagnosis instead of just thinking about the next question that you have to ask. You get me? Like, in the beginning, as a new medical student, I don't know if this happens to every medical student, it happened to me. I was just thinking of the next question that I needed to ask so that there's not an awkward pause between it. But it's not about awkward pauses. It's okay if you have awkward pauses. What's not okay is that you are not listening to the patient and then you forget really good information. So, so yeah, that happened. And in January, when we went in person, is that I really started to value having good clinical skills, because I started to see real patients in the clinic every week. And I have mentioned it in other blogs, it's my favorite part of my whole medical school curriculum. And it's one of the reasons why I chose FAU, is because they have clinical skills from the very first week. Like I'm telling you, they started to teach you about the history and about many different things in your first week of medical school. So I really value that part of my medical school education, and I started to see how the residents will do it in the clinic and how they will do it focused and really tailored to the patient. And that's when I realized I needed to change my approach when learning clinical skills. And I'm gonna take another sip of coffee, otherwise I won't stop talking. So yeah, it was a challenge for me to learn all of these, and the more we do it, the more I noticed my change and my improvement, which I'm really happy about. You have to keep practicing, you have to keep going. So after that, we had to prepare for our final OSCE of the year in May, and by that time we were already learning how to do physical exams, and I did that video with my classmate Peyton that I posted in my channel. You can go ahead and see it if you haven't. I'll post it right here. But I was pretty confident about those exams. In part, it was because I started to value each component of the exam and really learning what each thing means in that sense. So, and I really had to thank my mentor for helping me through it, and actually going there and having me do it to her and really memorizing. Before that video, I actually practiced with her. But yeah, after that I did really good in my OSCE, and I just became a little bit more confident when going in and seeing patients in the clinic. Then we learned how to do SOAP presentations, which includes the subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. That's like a quick patient presentation that we do, and we're still working on it, on how to come up with differential diagnosis and all of that, but it's a process. It started really it really starts from the beginning, and they start building on it as the months pass. And by doing this in PBL and IQ, that all helped me to just become better at this art that is clinical skills. And that's why I say it's an art, because you really have to focus on the patient and analyze characteristics, which include past medical history, it includes OBGYN history, includes social history, all of that, take it into account. It's not only just the main concern that they have and that's it. So in the summer, I decided to still go to one of the clinics, free clinics that we go twice a semester. It's different from the one we go every week, and that helped me a lot to just keep learning, and from really difficult cases or complicated cases. And some patients will come with a huge list of past medical diseases, and you're like, what am I gonna do? There's so many problems here. But we need to focus on the chief complaint and the social factors that may affect that chief complaint. And yes, we look at the past medical history if we're going to do medications, and to just take it the whole the whole context into perspective. But it's really about focusing on the main problem that day. And yeah, I just want to say I have come very far. I get a lot less nervous before entering a room to see the patient. I used to get super nervous, like, guys, I cannot even describe. I used to get super, and especially when we had to read information about the patient outside the door. For me, since English is my second language, it takes me a long time to read sometimes, so I will run out of time, and that will drive me crazy. And I know every medical student goes through this process in a different way, but for me, it was really important to do good. So it was a challenge, and I'm really glad that I'm working through it and getting better and getting less scared, building confidence, because the more confidence you are, the better. Now, after that encounter that I had last week, that I told you guys that this is where this video idea came from, I realized that right now, if I prepare well for a case, like for example, our case was on a fall on an elderly, and I was confident with that kind of case because I like older people, and I have studied the questions that you have to ask for geriatrics and whatever, so I did good because of that. But I have to now get good at multiple problems. We're not just giving just one main chief complaint, but the patient can have 2 or 3 chief complaints, so we gotta learn how to work with that. And apart from that, it's not about preparation, because sometimes in the hospital we won't have preparation time. I had the whole day before to prepare for this case that I did really good at. But what about when we are in the clinic or in the hospital and we have I don't know, 10 minutes to read over the chart of this patient, and then go ahead and going in and start asking questions. So this is what I have to get good at now, which is not as simple as having a whole day to prepare. But yeah, this is the stage where I am right now, trying to work with, by learning more and putting more into my brain, I will have to do less background studying or less background preparation for a case, because I will have already seen a lot of them. For example, I see a lot of diabetes patients in the clinic, so now I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable when a diabetic patient comes, and I know which questions to ask and which physical exams to do. But if something else comes up, like I don't know, like a heart disease or something, I'm just learning now about cardiology, so I have to just do a really good job in my studies so that I can complement that and not having to do much background work. But yeah, I'm working on that, and I'm really happy. I just think this has been an incredible journey for me, and I just get really emotional to just have good feedback from my professors. That means a lot to me, and I just got that last week and got really happy, and I really wanted to share this with you guys. So yeah, that was all for today's video. I'm sorry if this was a little bit too long, but I just wanted to share and also share my new hair with you. So I'm gonna stay a little longer with this color. I don't know, we'll see, we might come back. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with any of your pre-med friends or medical student friends that may relate to this. And I hope you liked it. Give me a comment down below, a like, and I'll see you in the next video.